This week's podcast guest is a remarkable woman that you need to hear her story and what she has created in all honesty, a brief amount of time in which she has scaled and grown beyond belief, finding out what her expertise is and filling a gap and creating an extraordinary company that offers extraordinary success for other companies. So stay tuned and listen. Welcome to The Seed, cultivating growth and empowering women in business, brought to you by Dandelion-Inc. I'm your host, Lisa Resnick, and this podcast is all about connecting, developing, and supporting women in business. Join me as we explore tips and insights on leadership, business development, and social media strategies that can help you thrive. We'll also hear from amazing guests who share their stories and experiences, offering inspiration and practical advice for your entrepreneurial journey. So tune in, download, like, and subscribe. And remember, if you love what you hear, share it with others. Together, let's cultivate growth and empower women in business. Hey everyone, I am here with Summer Craig. So Summer Craig in 2019 founded the Craig Group, which helps private equity-backed businesses and family-owned companies solve business problems through marketing. Don't we all want that? Her company has clients across industries, including healthcare and automotive. She also is a mother of three, very active. Like I would like to say you're an athlete in the things that you've done. You've climbed mountains, haven't you?
Climbed some mountains, I have.
Which ones did you climb?
Yeah, I mean, we live in Houston, which is hilarious. So we end up having to train going upstairs and, skyscrapers. But my husband and I have traveled for, I don't know, the last 15 years all over the world. But we've climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa. That was a big one. Probably the biggest one here in the US was Mount Rainier, which is
Yes.
a technical
Rainier's
climb
out west, right?
It's outside of Seattle.
Yep.
Yeah, we just, I like to do stuff that kind of puts me out of my comfort zone and pushes what we think we're capable of.
Yeah. Speaking of liking to put yourself out into those uncomfortable spaces and pushing your limits, clearly this is consistent and a thing with you. You founded the Craig Group in 2019. Lead us up to that point before you decided to open up your own business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before that, for the previous, almost 20 years, I've been in marketing and digital implementation roles across big ad agencies, New York and Austin, and then also had been in-house at some private equity and venture-backed companies, and was in 2019 was probably had the best job in the world, which I still would never take another corporate job, working for Gulf States Toyota and the Friedkin family, who are just salt of the earth people. So I kind of had it made, to be honest. Why would I ever want to leave? But I did have an entrepreneurial bug. The idea was I worked very much into my whole career into marketing technology and digital technology. And my job at Toyota, most recently, I had to get in front of stakeholders and decision makers, the board, and explain, why do we need $100 million on marketing and how is it improving sales? And with all of the tools in the world and all the ad agencies and everything we had, I found that there was just that answer was not really being answered.
Yeah.
And you go and you try to find how do we prove true revenue driving value marketing activities and really what that means is sales and marketing, combined, having to be together. And there was a passion of mine. I've always thought about it. I've worked in somewhere around answering that question for almost 20 years. But in 2019, I had just had my third baby. So I had, I don't know, maybe she was 4 weeks, 6 weeks, I don't know. We were on vacation and I had an actual entrepreneurial lightning strike epiphany that I was not going to kind of go back and, go to my fabulous job. I was going to go start a company and build something, because I just knew I could. And
Do
it
you
was
remember
it
the
was a,
moment? Do you
yes,
remember where you were, what you were doing? Like, what was
sitting, I
that
was
click?
in Frisco, Colorado on vacation, which is right outside of Breckenridge, in the brown leather rocking chair. I was nursing my baby. My other children were running around, and I'm looking at the most beautiful view, snow-capped mountains. It's on Lake Dillon, and I broke out in a cold sweat and started shaking and had an actual anxiety attack. And I knew I was going to quit my job and I was going to start a company. And here we are, we're 5 years later.
Did you have the idea of the company in your head at that time? Was
It,
it
it was, it
something
was
like I feel like the seed was probably planted before that moment?
Well, it was the idea that I just mentioned around ROI and analytics. I mean,
Yeah.
that was what I felt like I had a passion for, and it was a gap in the marketplace. I mean, that was what was in my head before the cold sweat epiphany
Yes.
happened. So yeah, that was really it. And then what that turned into was, okay, I have an expertise in go to market marketing and digital. And I think I can do this in a way that can prove revenue, can actually pull through and say, no, this is a revenue driving activity. So then, a couple of weeks later, the company was formed. And then, quickly, my first client was a private equity backed company. I had some experience working with venture backed companies. And the idea then was, well, what if we're looking at private equity backed portfolio companies? And the reason that was interesting was because nobody that we saw in the space, especially at that time, and I specifically work with lower middle market. So nobody in those types of companies was helping these portfolio companies with this problem, which is they needed sales and marketing to grow their revenue. But they had a really unique challenge. They have an investor that just came in. They probably have 3 years to do it. They have constrained resources. They have to move fast. Like, who's going to help them?
So that's the thing.
That's the
So
thing.
you do have these smaller businesses that are needing to scale.
Yes.
And especially right now with marketing. I think number one, people seem to think when you say marketing, digital marketing. Like I don't think
Mhm.
that they realize that they're thinking only one component
Yeah.
of the actual full aspect of what marketing is and what
Mhm.
needs to be part of your plan with your sales and your marketing.
Right.
So it's very overwhelming. And then when people are only looking into social media posts even, and they're talking about social strategy and they're not getting the ROI, they feel like a failure, like they're failing and they can't figure out how to create that visibility to create the ROI needed from the visibility.
Hmm. Yeah.
So how do you go in? Like give us like I have pretend I have absolutely no clue. I don't even have a social media app on my phone, which of course I do, but like pretend like I don't. And I'm starting like I've already my company is a couple years old and it's that time that I need infused. I need money infused. And I'm
Yeah.
scared because I know I'm going to have to pay that back.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. So we specifically work in, what we consider to be the lower middle market. So these companies are 50 million to up to 300 million in revenue. They are usually still entrepreneur led, lots of times founder entrepreneur led. So they've obviously had tremendous success scaling to where they are, because they now have private equity or some type of financial sponsor, like an independent sponsor, comes in and backs them. So now they've got this influx of capital. But with the influx of capital comes the mandate to grow. And typically that mandate in this market is a rapid growth. There's a timeline attached to it. So that creates a unique challenge, which is not just that you have to grow and scale, it's that you have to grow and scale fast.
Yes.
So what Craig Group does is we're introduced from the private equity sponsor to the CEO, and then we can engage with them. We have two phases of our work that we do. So the first phase that we do is our strategy phase. We will only do this. We will not at all talk about things like social before we do strategy. So for us, it's around identifying who is their core customer. We call that ICP in our world, which is ideal customer profile, and that's not just around like demographics. It's who's the most profitable customer. So if you're spending time selling to somebody, you want to spend that time selling to the person that you can make the most money and hopefully had the highest margins. So Craig Group is always looking at things from that angle. So we're going to identify your ICP. We're also going to identify what their pain points are in the market. So why would somebody want to buy something from you? Mm-hmm. What's their path to buying that? What's their problem that they have? There's always a problem that leads somebody to go buy something. And especially in what we're doing, which is mostly B2B, a lot of industrial, manufacturing, some B2C, healthcare, right? But there's always a trigger, right? Something that causes people. So we study that. Usually what we find is they've typically never really done that work. They're kind of just cowboying it out there, just sort of selling to people they know. Maybe they think they know most people in the marketplace and they're kind of just using their network. But they've not done regimented work around identifying buyer journey, ICP, and also their strengths and weaknesses compared to their competitors and how they should sell against that. So Craig Group does that work. And at the end of that phase one, we leave them with a full go-to-market plan, which is unique. A lot of times if you do consulting work, you don't get the actual go-to-market plan. You get just kind of theory and ideas. And if they're able to take that and implement themselves, they certainly could. Craig Group also moves into a phase two if needed, which is our implementation execution phase. And that phase then says, okay, so how do we actually get the go-to-market done? And that phase is where, let's say, for example, you have a B2C company, so you're selling to a customer, and that customer demographic is women that are in their 30s and 40s. In that situation, social media, especially something like Instagram, would be a great targeting fit, would be a great channel for that demographic. So we're only going to talk about tactics when it comes back to kind of that point where we're ready to align it with exactly who we're talking to, what the message is, and then kind of what the outcome is. So if we're doing a B2B industrial lead gen campaign around like kind of just a low cost industrial product, we're absolutely not going to be doing social media at all. And that would be potentially more sales enablement, which is helping the sales team call on the right customers, making sure that they're equipped with either AI tools or giving them more sophisticated lists to call on. We might even do something like sponsor a conference for them. That might be the marketing tactics that we do. So our team has broad capabilities all the way from web dev to copywriting to creative, and then also to sales enablement capabilities. But we only do that work once we've really spent time doing the upfront strategy, because without that, it's just tactics, and the ROI is not. It's not going to happen because success was not clearly defined before the tactics were started.
So you mentioned how fast and aggressive these companies need to be after they've been backed by this additional equity. And we also hear often when it comes to marketing strategies that it's the long game. So how do those two worlds then interconnect and work together?
Yeah, well, I mean, it has to be both.
Yeah.
So you have to do both. And our view is that sales and marketing are not separate. Sales is one-to-one usually, and marketing is one-to-many. But the message, the why, the how, those have to be aligned. So for most of what we're doing, there typically is low-hanging fruit. So not all marketing is long game. Sometimes, especially if your goals are around lead generation, like let's say you just need more volume of leads, there's some low-hanging fruit that you can do to get some lead generation. If you've got an appropriate market for paid search is a great way to get lead generation. If your goals are, much more long-term, which maybe there are things like you have a very expensive product. If let's say you're selling something like a couple $100,000 software or something, that's going to be totally different. Then on that you've got to lean into thought leadership public relations, probably some PR. You want to get, listed in the magazines, and that's a long game.
It
That's
is.
not lead generation. But for the companies, you really have to have both strategies, which are, if you have the ability to get low hanging fruit in terms of revenue, do that, but also invest in some longer tail strategies like, SEO, thought leadership, content, redoing your website and those things. Those are all longer game, but we would recommend doing both if you can.
So, and you can also help people out with that, right?
Right.
So let's
Right.
talk about how we're going to go back. We're staring at the mountains. We're sweating a bit. And we're like, this is the moment I'm opening up the company. Because I think this is essential. And you and I have talked about this before. It was a while ago, but you mentioned when like your strategy yourself when it came to starting the company and how you looked at it at the beginning and the two ways that you can look at what you're starting up. Like, are you going to be a one-man show? And then how you strategize and you plan in your business plan, which everyone should have out there, like their business plan of how they're going to grow and their projections based upon the limitations of what one person can offer.
Yeah.
Versus having this other side of saying, no, I don't want to just take on one or two clients. I want to grow. I want to do as much as possible and make as big of an impact as I can to as many people as I can.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I mean, I will tell you that day on the mountain, sweating, nursing a baby, I could not have answered that question. I had no idea. It was like, okay, we're doing this. It was this just had to happen. It was just one of those things. I didn't have a great plan at that moment, but quickly, and when I wrote the original business plan, I originally said, okay, it's going to be me, but I know I'm going to have some people around me. So I always thought I'd have some sort of a team. I never saw this as a solo gig, like a single shingle person that's doing something. I just never did. I always knew that I was going to have skill sets and support around me. So I was mentally ready for that. I was ready, but I remember my first goal was, well, okay, I just quit my job. I'm pretty well paid, so wouldn't that be awesome if the first year of my company, I could just make, more than my salary and my bonus, right? So it's like, okay, what if I could pay myself the same amount, right? Because that was like,
wouldn't that be great?
Wouldn't that be great? I'm going to start my own business and I'm going to, continue to make the same amount of income. So that was my first corporate goal, which seems hilarious now. And I quickly achieved that. And mostly because of, people that knew me and trusted me and hired me. And, it was just, just from my network. But quickly did that. I was like, oh, okay. So I'm going to need, I have to have another goal. So then I was like, we should double that. So that was sort of the second corporate goal was, oh, well, we'll do 2x. And then we had enough clients to where I realized then something that I just am not good at and don't want, like, I don't want to do my accounting, like my billing and now all of a sudden I had these clients I had to bill. And I had, so I realized like, oh, this is terrible. So I had to hire somebody for that because it's not my strong suit. So immediately did that. And then we got a volume of work that I needed somebody that was trusted, that had a broad skill set. I was able to bring on the brilliant Trisha Eaton, who's still with us, our VP of operations. And she took a chance joining me, and is just is just a Wonder Woman of a person. And we had so much work that all of a sudden we had to have people. Yeah. And that's kind of how we evolved pretty quickly. And then I think, I don't know, maybe probably 2 years into the business, there was an actual pivot, a strategic pivot, which was, okay, if we want to scale and do we want to scale? And, so the question to do we want to scale was absolutely. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because I see the need. I think there's an absolute demand for what we do in the marketplace. I think that we're a best in class offering. And I want to offer our services to as many people as I can in our target market. So to me, that do we want to scale was check the box. And we're essentially a consulting firm. And the only way that you scale for consulting is if you get multiple people that they have fractional time on multiple clients. And so I knew that, I had to pull myself a little bit out of it because I can't multiply myself. I needed to hire brilliant, smart, fantastic people and get them working on as many clients as I could, right? So then we could scale the business. So there was a strategic pivot to that, and that's where we are today. So that continues to be our strategy, which is hire the smartest people we can find and scale their time fractionally across multiple clients. So that's how we're able to continue to grow.
So the other question I have, bringing you back to the beginning of when you started your business, and I really think it's important for people to understand about how you developed your connections beforehand. So then there was that trust and people knowing that they can rely on you, which is huge in any industry.
Mm-hmm.
Reputation and being able to deliver what you tell people you're going to deliver, whether you're working at a corporation or for your own business, is so essential for you developing those relationships with people. So walk us through that portion. And then when it came to the sales offer that you had for those relationships that you were able to develop and connect with, like, how was that for you?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think I've been I've had a great career up until the moment when I left kind of the corporate world. I've been so blessed. I mean, I worked at GSD&M in Austin, which, if your listeners aren't familiar, I mean, that ad agency was arguably the best in the whole country, in the late 90s, and, including clients like, Southwest Airlines, Walmart, BMW. And, I started my career there and then, went to just, amazing places. Was at AOL for a time. And again, this was back in kind of the beginning of the internet advertising. So they were just a pioneer. And then, went, to HomeAway.com, this small startup, which ends up being, the biggest vacation rental IPO ever, and is now, VRBO. And all these people I met, and, in New York, was then at the huge Publicis company and was able to do this. I just met fabulous people, just wonderful people across my career. And I was fortunate enough to still keep in touch with many of them. And also many of them, I went to the University of Texas for undergrad and for graduate school. And there's a cohort of us that are we still work in marketing, and we've been doing it since we were 18 years old together. And
That's
so
great.
I think it's great. I surrounded myself with people that not only are friends, but we had done work together. So we've kind of been in the trenches. I've done hard work with a lot of people. So I had a great network that knew there was trust there, because we had done it. We had been through some hard stuff. We had done things together. So yeah, I mean, I think that's it. People had seen, and then also other people that were not peers, but they were more just work acquaintances. I think they'd seen my work product as part of a team and otherwise. And I'm pretty proud of the work I was able to accomplish, what we were able to accomplish, and especially most recently at Toyota. But when I started the company, and I really, was going out there, I really didn't. You asked me about kind of sales, right? Because of course you want that, like, give me some business. I just didn't frame it that way. I really framed all my reach out as, can you give me advice? And because I need it, and I still do, from everybody.
Yes.
All the time.
We're always learning. Always
it's like,
learning.
What do you think about this? I'm doing this thing, and that was really what it was about. And it wasn't like, okay, here's I don't even know that I even had a real sales pitch. It was more like, wow, we work together, we've been in the same industry, we could help each other, but tell me, like, what do you think? Who should I be looking out for competitors? Who do you think is, where's the next move? So that was really my initial reach out, and that turned into business.
That's great. That's so you never really like had to create the whole sales funnel, anything like that when you first started off.
Not when I started off. Not when I started off. I mean, today, different story. I hired, the brilliant Libby Covington about a year in, and she comes out of private equity. So she brought that kind of inside baseball credibility that Craig Group needed. Most of our business comes from her network, and then some of my network. And so we really still scaled through referrals, and we still do. But we are at a scaling point now where we do have to really start considering a funnel, more of a funnel view, which is not everybody can come from our referrals now. Like we've got to go beyond that network, and we're ready to scale beyond those networks. And so I do have a focus on that. So we have some, outbound tactics right now that we do for marketing that are much more focused on nurturing potential clients through a funnel. And we didn't do that in the past. It was just, warm introductions and referrals from our network. But so now we're expanding well beyond that, and we're very much, wanting to grow our funnel and get more people aware of Craig Group, more people interested in partnering with us that we've never met before.
So do you find being someone who is an expert in your field for marketing, do you find it as an advantage when it comes to your own company?
What's the saying? The cobbler has no shoes. Is that the cobbler?
Yes.
What is that? Yeah.
No, I think that's right.
I don't know.
Or the shoemaker. No, it's
Yeah,
the cobbler who has no shoe.
yeah. So no, I'll tell you what I have to overcome, and I think we're there now, but it took me a while, is staffing a team for your own marketing is expensive, right? Like
Yes.
that's an overhead expense. And I feel like I've always managed our business in it from a very conservative perspective. I knew that we could really grow through referrals. I didn't have to spend money because of that, and didn't. And then we also have such a great, we have the subject matter expert skill set in-house. So when I did want to do stuff, I did have that expertise. So no, but there comes a point where asking a brilliant writer to come off of client work because I need them to focus on Craig Group is not how you can build a business, because then they are not focused on our clients, and they're focused on this. So there definitely came a time where I realized I did need to have dedicated both technology and headcount that was just focused on Craig Group. And there's been some real significant investment there around our marketing strategy. And so now, yes, now I think yes. Honestly, it was more of a financial decision around, when's the right time to invest in yourself, as opposed to only kind of focus on other people. And maybe it's the mom and me, and I'm also just a conservative person. But I always wanted to wait to invest until it was really time. Who knows, if I had a crystal ball, maybe I should have done it 2 years or, years earlier, but, we are where we are. And we're at a place where we have both headcount and technology, and we have also our marketing partners that work with Craig Group to support us in marketing. So we definitely are practicing what we preach now, but we haven't done it.
I think it's good, but I think people really struggle when it comes to the marketing component. And just like you said, it is an investment that you need to make. And when there is that large dollar investment, especially the smaller your company is, that's even a larger chunk taken out of your business, that all they're thinking about is, if I'm taking a third of the revenue coming in and I'm putting it into marketing and I'm not seeing the fruits of that labor, then there is this fear that they feel lost, and they don't necessarily know how to handle this situation, because they're like, we don't want to do it ourselves. We don't have time to do it ourselves. Us focusing hours on end in a world that we all know that people can go down into like the abyss when it comes to marketing and can't find their way out and have no clue where to start, where their energy needs to be spent. And yet then they bring on others, they contract out, which also happens often. But then again, with the investment being made, they're like, was this the right choice? Did I choose the right company? They seem to
Yeah.
be not necessarily hitting the marker because it's their baby. It's their
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah. I would say if there's anybody that feels if anybody that agrees with what you just said and they're feeling that, and they're like, oh, that's me. Um, I think that there's one thing that they need to do, hearing that, is you've really got to go back and say, who are my buyers?
Mm-hmm.
Who are my buyers? I mean, get a pencil and paper out, get a whiteboard, and define that, write it down, and then think, who else could be my buyers? Am I missing somebody else? Like, who else could buy whatever you're selling, your widgets, your services, whatever it is? And really like keep questioning that. Who else? And then sit there and, think about it, and then say, why would they buy from me? What, and write it down, like literally write it down. Well, first they have X happens, and then they do Y, and then Z, they call me, or whatever it is. Like, you've got to write that down. So the reason why I say that is if you're spending, if you're feeling pain around your marketing spend and you're also feeling like lack of ROI, it's because you shouldn't be doing any of it then. You've got to go back and say, wait, hold on. Who are we talking to? Why are we talking to them? What are we saying? Because if you get that right, if you figure out, and some people will call this, if you do your business plan, you'll call this product market fit.
Yes.
Right? So if you're selling something, it could be a service too, right? But if you're selling a service, a product, and you've really defined who wants this and it's a fit, that's when you're ready to do marketing, because then you're like, oh, okay, I have a product market fit. And then you can go and you can buy super targeted advertising potentially, or maybe it's just doing content creation yourself, but that's highly targeted to who your buyers are. And you're saying messages, what you're saying coming out of your mouth resonates with them because you have product market fit. So if those things happen, then you will, if those are all happening, you will see your people reaching out to you. You will see people coming to your website. You will see form fills coming in. You will see phone call, whatever that is. But if you get that front part right, like the actual execution of marketing becomes much easier, because you're really tightened up. But most people, again, in our companies, they don't do that hard work. They want
At the front. It's true because everybody wants to say, well, we're for everyone.
And that's the worst answer.
Yes, it is literally the worst.
That's the worst answer. That's when you know that you absolutely do not know what you're doing, who you're selling to. You do not have product market fit. If that's an answer, and trying to market that is, there's very few things that are for everyone. Like Amazon, maybe, you know what I mean?
But
like
even Amazon is not for everyone.
That's
I
true,
have
but it's like
plenty of relatives out there that refuse, and
yeah,
that is your person, by the
sure.
way, who will not order from Amazon and they will not go to the checkout line and check themselves out. They want
Yeah,
the people.
they want to go to sure. So maybe that in that case, Walmart's for everybody. So maybe it's
Yeah.
Walmart or Amazon, the two. Between the two, it's for there's just like this idea of like everyone does, like, no, they don't. Like, it is not for everyone. And so that would be a red flag. I'd say that there's not been enough work done on strategy. And you need to stop spending immediately, like quit and go back and do strategy. But also, I think from our perspective too on marketing, if you're frustrated on like the spend and ROI and all that's happening too, absolutely stop it. But also, like, look at your own, like, you have to work your network, and like that's free. And people
It's
have to do that.
true. But that is why I wanted you to touch on how you reached out to people and told people when
Mhm.
you decided that this is happening,
Yeah.
you started your company, you filed your state papers, all the things, like
Mhm.
how you reached out to them. Because I think that people really have this stumbling block when it comes to connecting with their network. And
Right.
I've consulted with people, and this is as a broker in real estate, when you have your new agents come on board and you say to them, like, one of the first things you do is introduce yourself as a real estate agent to your network.
Right.
And their response is, well, we don't we don't have a network. Like,
Yeah.
we don't have a list of loan officers. We don't have home inspectors. Like, and I'm like, yeah, you do. Like, you have a huge network out there, a
Hmm.
huge network, whether
Yeah.
you realize it or not. It could be the person who's selling cars is part of your network. It could be it's your neighbor next door who's in your network. These are the people you need to reach out to.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and I like how you did the twist of saying like it was more of a device
Hmm.
because I do think
Absolutely.
people love giving advice.
They
So
do. And also, if you're starting a new business, you need it.
yeah,
Even if you don't know you
that
need it,
too.
you do
Very
need
much
it.
so.
Not that everyone says something super insightful, but like coming to a new entity, for something new with the humility around, tell me what you think about this, or I think is just always the way to go. But in our world, it is a little, in the corporate, kind of this world I'm in, people do absolutely people have massive networks. Now, whether they're organized and they know how to use them and they know what to say, probably not. So for example, a lot of CEOs, even just think of like an industrial company CEO, they don't understand why they need to be, curating their LinkedIn content and curating their LinkedIn followers, right?
So
And
true.
they're like, why do I need to do that? I'm like, well, you know more about this than anybody. You've got things to say, and sometimes they don't even realize the impact they can have on their sales team by them curating a little bit more their followers. Go connect with, all these other people, the people that your sales team are trying to sell to. Go connect with their bosses. Go connect with,
That's right.
and but get yourself out there. And then also, if you can hire again, we're talking about, at least like $50 million company, but Craig Group can advise, but they can also hire a, hourly intern even to help them. Hey, here is our target accounts. Go connect with them on my LinkedIn for me. Right. And then the CEO does have a voice, but a lot of times they don't look at it that way. They're not using their network in a way that they don't see it as a sales and marketing tool. They sometimes they look at LinkedIn like it's an act, like it's just people that follow them a little bit more, like kind of like we would do personal social media. And so we've got to coach them on that, which is that's not what it is.
That's not
You
LinkedIn at all.
Not at all.
Although it
Not at all.
has jazzed up a lot.
What?
It has jazzed itself up a lot over
Oh,
the past. I mean, LinkedIn used to be boring as all get out.
totally, totally. Yeah, they've really, and it's owned by Microsoft, who's generally very boring.
Yeah.
So they
Yes.
still stick to their rather boring roots, but I think it's just they've taken advantage of the tremendous monetization opportunity of video. Because they were late to the game on that, but they've really embraced it. And I tell CEOs of portfolio companies this all the time, which is, even though you're selling something that's a B2B service, and even though you're on LinkedIn, these are still people. They're just people. They want to be entertained. Like,
Yes.
don't be boring. Don't write, pages long content. Don't, like, this is still like, even if you're shopping for something, again, for work, for business, like, people still have short attention span. They would like to see something quick and maybe something that's visually pleasing, easier to see. Like, you're still selling to people. And I think LinkedIn finally was like, oh, these are people.
Which,
Let's
by the way,
let's treat them like people.
you just touched on long form content,
Mhm.
which I know was a big push at the beginning of 2024. And it's a way long form content should be really used in a very strategic way. Not every single post that you put out there needs to be 5 paragraphs long.
No, very few.
Like, if you really are just trying to, and I have actually noticed it. And what was interesting is at the beginning of 2024, when it was more sporadic and timely when it occurred, I did read it.
Mhm.
But just like everything, if there's an overabundance of it, it loses its luster.
Mhm.
So long form content for me, like and LinkedIn, I'll see it all the time. Like everything is just this long
Yeah.
post. And I'm like, okay, like look at the image, like move on.
Yeah. Sure.
Like,
Yeah, sure. We
even
we
on,
advise our we advise our CEOs on this a little bit. And the same thing goes for long form content on their like maybe they would write like a technical white paper, which would be used as a sales tool. But that's long form content. So somebody's not gonna download your white paper unless they already know who you are. They've already kind of vetted you a little bit. Like you don't get that until you've proven yourself. The same thing's true on LinkedIn. Like people don't read your long form content. They don't attend your webinar, which is long form content.
yes,
They don't do that unless they've already engaged with your short form content in that channel, right? And they know you. So same. If you're trying to get people, to submit leads, which we deal with a lot of people that are, trying to get leads, so sales team, and like they first have to know who you are. They have to be interested in you. You have to say something that solves their problem. Then you can invite them to then, hey, you're interested in reading this paper that we did that, a company similar to yours, then we solved their problem. Or using a LinkedIn example, you would want to only really target your long form content. Like you really only want people to see that have already seen your short form content,
that's
maybe people
right.
that already follow you, that you're going to another stage. That's not like a first meeting kind of a content that takes time investment. So we advise our CEOs on it on the other side, which is if you want people to read your stuff, or if you really want to use it as a sales tool, you first have to get people aware of who you are, and you have to say something to them that is compelling enough to where they're going to pay attention to you. Then you can go into something like, hey, come watch our case study, watch our video of whatever our solution is. But people aren't going to invest in that if they don't already know who you are
Yeah.
and think it's wow.
No, not unless they see you on a TEDx stage, will they jump
Right,
right in? But
right.
so here's my other question. This is going to be my final question too, I promise.
Okay.
But what are your thoughts? Because you have your social media platforms, that visibility, because again, there's an overabundance and it's so loud out there right now. So voices aren't necessarily heard like they used to be heard, starting to incorporate in their strategy, their overarching strategy, dependent, of course, on their services or their product that they're putting out there, utilizing more of the search engine sites. Like YouTube is a search engine,
Mhm.
Pinterest is a search engine. So starting to focus in on those platforms that honestly, a lot, including myself, haven't really taken advantage of.
Yeah. I mean, I think it goes back to strategy, right? That's what's always going to be my answer.
Yep.
So, that is absolutely not a fit for everyone. And again, we cannot talk about tactics unless there's been a clear delineation that your buyer audience is on those platforms and that those platforms are compelling, moving them down whatever your buyer funnel looks like. So, YouTube, I would say, a little bit more kind of for everybody. Even from just an SEO standpoint, it makes sense to put videos on YouTube. I think most businesses should have a YouTube channel, even just to host their content. It adds authority to their website. So YouTube is a little bit more of a kind of I would just kind of say, just do it. Sort of how I feel about YouTube. YouTube is also for almost everybody ends up on YouTube, even if you don't mean to. I feel like you're in a search engine and
True.
you end up on YouTube. So it's a little bit more of kind of an imperative. I look at YouTube as sort of like a must, like a little bit of a table stakes, even for B2B companies, and doing content creation, even if it's really more about SEO than sales. Pinterest is a whole other deal. I mean, there's such a small, it is such a small demographic compared to something like a YouTube. I mean, it's night and day. It's just incredibly tight demographic. So, I mean, unless you're selling something that's visually beautiful and you're selling something to women, under the age of, I don't know, maybe I would probably say like 60, absolutely not. Stay away, pretend it doesn't exist. I mean, that's what I would say. It's just, if you're selling something to women that is visually pleasing, And your strategy is a content strategy. So there has to be a content strategy, which is like first piece of content has this goal, second piece of content has this goal. I think Pinterest can absolutely be part of that strategy, which is helping people, move through a content funnel. But it is a very small platform in terms of reach. Like it's very small. So, especially if somebody has a limited resources and limited budget, it might be better to stay on like an Instagram or a Snapchat, just because they're, a little bit cheaper and they have higher reach. But also if you're selling something that's like a, let's say it's a home accessories or something that's beautiful for your home or something that's, especially around things like party planning and, wedding planning, maybe Pinterest is your core channel because that's where your demographic is. And that's where you need to be.
I agree completely. I also like to say, how do you use each of these platforms?
Yeah, well, we absolutely do not use Pinterest at all. So no, we do not sell anything that is beautiful that needs to, that that's not us at all. I do have a personal Pinterest that I kind of sometimes use. Sort of like my daughter sort of maybe stole mine. I think that most of the boards are hers now. But yeah, I think, we do not use it at all. So it's not something that's part of our strategy. YouTube, we do. So YouTube, we do have a YouTube channel. We host our content videos on YouTube. We'll post all of the videos that we do for content creation on YouTube as well. We do not get customer traffic through YouTube, so we do not look at it as lead generation. There is no ROI metric associated to it. It is purely to support our authority score and SEO rankings in Google.
Yes.
So that's how we use YouTube.
Which I think that was very important to say, because I think that people need to understand sometimes that these platforms are an assist.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's just as important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's again, I think it's a must do, but no one's going to find us on YouTube and come like, that would be amazing. I'd be shocked.
Everybody out there, go to YouTube.
Go to our YouTube, check it out. I would highly recommend. Yeah, go to craiggroup.io first, and then from craiggroup.io you could click out to the YouTube channel and look at things like that. But I would go to the website or LinkedIn over YouTube. But it's important. It's important as part of just the whole digital strategy. It's important to have.
Okay, so before you go, for all those companies out there that are at that point where they're at that mid-range, where they need that private equity and they're ready to roll and they're ready to go, how can they make sure that they reach out to you? Is it through the equity direct and then you're part of their list, or can they skip that part and go to you first?
They could. I mean, we do only work with CEOs that have a sponsor backing. So, if somebody is seeking investment, would probably be a little too soon to engage with us. But if they already have some type of sponsor backing, we would love to hear from them. Absolutely.
But would it be through the sponsor, or would it be through reaching out to you directly?
Either way. I mean, you can just reach out to us directly. Yeah, of course. Of course.
That's awesome. Summer, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I absolutely love it. I'm so happy we connected. You are doing amazing things, and I love how you found the problem, you found a gap, and you filled it.
We try every day.
It's true. It's true. The gap's not going to go away. So you're able, there's plenty of them out there that you're going to be plugging to help people out, which is a good thing, because that means things are looking good for people in our economy. So it's a good thing.
That's right. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. That was awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you.
So I go through and I'll edit out the beginning and the end. Everything else flows through. And then I will let you know when it's about to release. It will be in November. When in the lineup, I'm not sure, but I I'm really trying to hit up in this Q4 period, anything that could be incorporated while people are thinking about their 2025 plan.
Mhm.
And I think everything that you said is going to be helpful for people. And it's true, like not having your ICP or ICA, whatever you want to call it, is
Yeah.
a problem. And then I brought up the marketing thing because I literally just got off a call with one of my members that was freaking out about the people that she hired for her marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I bet they don't have that, I would challenge, but like, who are you selling to? Yeah, that's what I would, yeah.
The most common things I say to those that I consult over and over again is, did you write it down? Did you write it down? Like
Yeah.
who is, I say ICA, who is your ideal customer avatar? And I'm like, have fun with it. Like, be creative. Like, think about like how Victoria's Secret does not exist. Victoria's Secret is the ICA. Like, that's what you need to do. Like, start there, and before you get frustrated about everything else, because again, I write it down. Write it
Yeah,
down. Put
right.
it.
I think that's hilarious, and we encounter the same issue. But I have an 11 o'clock meeting, so I'm going to have to scoot. But thank you so much for this time. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you, everyone, for listening in to The Seed. If you'd like to receive our weekly newsletter, go to Dandelion-Inc.com and click Let's Connect. And please be sure to subscribe to the Seeds podcast to hear more inspiring stories from other badass women that are all around us. Remember, behind every woman is a tribe of other successful women who have their back. To you all, thank you.